The sky was dark, filled with heavy clouds. Strange winds howled over the thick forest of the human colony world known as Solara 3. Rain poured down, soaking the ground and turning the soft soil into slippery mud. Lightning cracked across the sky, and somewhere deep in the woods a small spaceship had crashed. Inside the wreck, a young alien woman pulled herself out from the shattered remains of her craft. Her pale blue skin was bruised and her long white hair clung to her face. She winced in pain, holding her side where a sharp piece of metal had cut her, but she didn't care about her wounds. Her golden eyes were filled with panic. "Fury, Fury," she cried, stumbling over broken branches and debris. Her child was missing. The crash had happened so fast. One moment they were flying peacefully through the outer atmosphere, and the next, their ship was hit by a meteor fragment. Systems failed, and she had no control. She remembered grabbing her child and trying to hold on, but the crash threw them apart. Now her arms were empty. She searched the forest, calling out in her soft alien tongue, but there was no answer. The only sound was the storm above and the wet leaves crunching under her feet. Her heart pounded as she looked around. Everything was so strange. The trees were tall and thick, unlike the open plains of her homeworld. The smell of the air, the buzzing insects, the sharp cries of creatures in the distance, it all made her feel more afraid. She sank to her knees beside a large rock and covered her face. Tears flowed down her cheeks. Her kind rarely cried, but now she could not stop. Her child, just a small one with soft skin and bright eyes, was alone on a world they did not know. Somewhere not far away, in a small wooden cabin built near the edge of the forest, a human named Cole was finishing his evening chores. He was a quiet man, living alone with only his tools, books, and old radio for company. Solara 3 was peaceful, and he liked it that way. That evening, as he poured himself some hot tea, he noticed something strange. His solar light sensor had picked up a small heat signal near the forest border, too small for a creature, but too warm to be just a rock. Curious, he put on his coat, grabbed a flashlight, and stepped outside. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, and the air smelled fresh and damp. Cole walked carefully through the grass and into the trees, following the sensor signal. After a short walk, he saw a small figure curled up under an outcrop of stone and vines. At first he thought it was an injured animal, but as he got closer he froze. It was a child, definitely not human. The child had smooth, bluish skin and tiny glowing lines near the neck. Its eyes were shut tightly, and it was shivering from the cold. Cole stood still, unsure what to do. He had never seen anything like this before. But then the child made a small sound, a soft whimper. That was enough. Cole slowly knelt down and placed his flashlight on the ground. He took off his jacket and gently wrapped it around the child. "Hey, it's okay," he whispered. "You're safe now." The child opened its eyes slightly and looked at him. Fear and confusion filled its face, but it didn't try to run. Cole smiled and held out a hand. "Come on, let's get you somewhere warm." Back in the forest, the alien mother suddenly paused. Her heart skipped a beat. It was faint, but she felt something. Her people had a weak bond with their young, a soft link through emotion and thought. For the first time since the crash, she felt a trace of that connection. Her child was alive, but she also felt something else, another presence. Someone else was near her child. She stood up quickly and began to walk, then run, following the tug of that faint emotional bond. Her mind raced. Was it danger? Was it safety? She didn't know. But one thing was clear. She would find her child, no matter what. Cole carried the small alien child in his arms as he returned to his cabin. The child was light, almost weightless, and still wrapped in his jacket. Its body trembled now and then, but it didn't resist. Cole could feel the warmth of the child slowly returning as they stepped inside his small home. The cabin was simple, just one room with a bed, a wood heater, and a small kitchen. It smelled of fresh wood and tea. Cole gently placed the child on the bed and threw a few dry logs into the fire. The heater crackled to life, and the room began to warm. He knelt beside the bed and looked at the strange little being. It was clearly not human, but there was something gentle about it, something innocent. Cole whispered, "I don't know what you are, kid, but you're not alone anymore." The child looked at him with large golden eyes, still unsure. It said something in its own language. Soft sounds, strange words, but Cole couldn't understand. He shook his head slowly. "I'm sorry. I don't speak that." Still, the child didn't look afraid. Just tired. Cole stood up and went to the kitchen. He returned with a warm cup of water and a few crackers. He wasn't sure what the child could eat, so he placed the food gently beside it. To his surprise, the child picked up a cracker, sniffed it, and then slowly took a bite. A moment later, it smiled. Cole chuckled quietly. "Well, I guess that means it's safe." Outside, the rain had stopped, but the sky was still gray. In the deep forest, the alien mother moved quickly. Her bare feet splashed in puddles as she ran through trees and over roots. Her wounds burned, but she didn't stop. She could feel her child now. The connection had grown stronger, but so had her worry. Her child was with someone, a human. She had read about humans before, strong, clever, sometimes kind, but sometimes dangerous. She didn't know what kind of human this one was. Her heart beat fast as she moved closer, guided by instinct and the bond. Back in the cabin, Cole sat near the fire. The child had fallen asleep, curled up under a soft blanket. Cole stared at it for a long time, wondering how a child like that ended up alone in the forest. Must have been a crash, he said to himself. Maybe a ship went down during the storm. He stood and went to a small cupboard. Inside was an old radio he hadn't used in months. He dusted it off, turned the dial, and tried to catch a signal. Static. Then silence. Then static again. Sighed. Still broken. He knew the colony center was a few kilometers away, but it would take time to reach them, and he didn't want to leave the child alone. For now, he decided to stay put. Outside, something moved in the trees. The alien mother had reached the edge of the forest. Her body was weak, but she forced herself to climb a small hill. From there, she saw it, a small wooden house with smoke rising from its chimney. A warm light glowed through the windows. Her heart skipped. Her child was inside. She stepped down the hill slowly, careful not to make noise. As she got closer, she saw movement inside. A tall figure, a human male, walking across the room. Her muscles tensed. Was he kind or cruel? She crept to the window and looked inside. Her breath caught in her throat. There, lying on the bed, wrapped in warm cloth, was her child, safe, sleeping peacefully. And beside the bed, the human was placing another blanket. He moved gently, like he cared. Her eyes filled with tears again, but this time they were different. She pressed a hand against the window, feeling the warmth of the glass. Her body wanted to rush in and hold her child, but her mind held her back. What if the human saw her as a threat? She needed to be careful. Cole looked toward the window suddenly, sensing something. But when he walked over and opened the door, no one was there, only the wind. Still, something felt different now, like he was being watched. He closed the door and returned to the fire. Outside, the alien mother stepped back, hidden again in the trees. Her heart was full of emotion, fear, relief, confusion, and something else she didn't expect. Hope. She whispered softly to herself in her language. Thank you, whoever you are. Then she disappeared into the night, waiting for the right time to reveal herself. The fire crackled softly in Cole's small cabin, filling the room with warmth. He sat by the bed, watching the alien child as it slept soundly. The room smelled of fresh wood and burning logs, a peaceful contrast to the storm that had raged outside earlier. The child had calmed down after its meal, its tiny body now wrapped tightly in blankets. Cole couldn't stop thinking about how strange it all was. He had never seen anything like the child before. Its smooth, bluish skin and glowing eyes were unlike anything on Earth. Yet there was something about it that reminded him of his younger siblings back when he lived with his family. The child's quiet innocence and vulnerability were undeniable. As he sat there, lost in his thoughts, a sudden sound made him look up. A soft, almost musical hum echoed through the room. It was coming from the child. Cole blinked, unsure of what he was hearing. The child's eyes were still closed, but it was making small, rhythmic sounds, like a soft melody. At first, he thought, it might be sleep noises, but then he noticed something more. The child's skin seemed to shimmer slightly, as though the melody was causing a strange energy to flow through its body. Cole leaned in closer, unsure of what was happening. The hum grew louder, and Cole felt a strange warmth spreading through his chest. His heartbeat seemed to match the rhythm of the sound. He stood up, drawn to the child's side, his curiosity growing. He reached out, gently touching the child's hand. The moment his skin made contact, a brief flash of light shot through the room. Bright, but not painful. It was like the hum had reached its peak and suddenly connected with him. The child's golden eyes opened, but it didn't seem frightened. It looked at Cole, and for a moment, the two of them were locked in a silent understanding. The child smiled softly, its features relaxed for the first time since Cole had found it. Cole stepped back, his mind racing with questions. What was that? What was happening? Before he could ask, the child raised its hand and pointed toward the door. It made a low sound, something almost like a request. Do you want to go outside? Cole asked, not sure why he was asking. The child nodded, its expression calm but eager. Cole hesitated for a moment, then went to the door and opened it slowly. The air outside had grown cooler, but the rain had stopped, and the sky was clearing. The forest was silent, the only sound being the distant rustle of leaves in the wind. He turned back to the child, who was already standing by the door, waiting. Cole smiled and stepped aside, allowing the child to lead the way. They stepped out, into the quiet world outside. The child walked ahead, its bare feet moving silently over the soft grass. Cole followed, unsure of what he was supposed to do, but unwilling to leave the child alone in such an unfamiliar place. As they walked through the forest, Cole couldn't help but notice how the child moved. It was graceful, almost like it was part of the forest itself. Every step seemed in tune with the natural world around them. The child's presence felt almost familiar, as if they had known each other for far longer than just a few hours. The child stopped at the edge of a small creek, its golden eyes scanning the water. It crouched down, touching the surface with its fingertips. The water rippled around its hand, but instead of moving away, it began to glow faintly, almost as if reacting to the child's touch. Cole blinked, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. He had heard stories of alien species with strange abilities, but this was something else entirely. The child looked up at him and smiled again, its eyes shining with something that felt like gratitude. It wasn't speaking, but the connection between them had grown. Cole couldn't explain it, but somehow in that moment he understood. He kneeled beside the child, watching the glowing water. "What's happening?" he whispered. The child made a soft melodic sound and reached out, guiding Cole's hand toward the water. Reluctantly, Cole placed his fingers in the stream. As soon as his skin touched the water, he felt a strange energy pulse through him. It was gentle but powerful, like a soft current running through his veins. His thoughts began to clear, his mind sharp with clarity. Images flashed before his eyes, glimpses of the alien child's life. He saw her crash on this world, saw her fear, and her search for her lost child. He felt the overwhelming loneliness, the desperation that had driven her to run through the forest, hoping for a glimpse of her baby. Then the images stopped. The child's eyes met his once more, and in that instant, Cole understood. The alien child wasn't just lost. She was connected to something much larger, and somehow, he had become part of it. He pulled his hand from the water and turned to the child. "I'm here. I'll help you," he promised softly. The child nodded, its eyes filled with trust. In that moment, Cole knew that they had both crossed some invisible line. They were no longer just strangers. They were connected, and something told him that their journey together was just beginning. The forest was quieter now, the heavy storm of earlier hours finally fading into the distance. The soft hum of nature surrounded Cole and the alien child as they walked back toward the cabin. The child seemed more at ease now, the strange bond between them growing stronger. With each step, Cole felt a deeper connection, as though they were no longer just a human and an alien, but something more. As they approached the cabin, Cole could feel a tension building inside him, a sense that something was about to happen. The child had become more animated, its golden eyes alert as if sensing something in the air. "Are you okay?" Cole asked, looking at the child with concern. The child nodded slowly, its face serious now. Then, without warning, it reached out and gently touched his arm, its fingers warm against his skin. Cole felt a soft surge of warmth course through him, and in that brief moment he knew the child was trying to communicate something important. At that very moment, a figure stepped from the shadows, just beyond the tree line. A tall, elegant figure with glowing golden eyes and blue skin, unmistakably the alien mother. Cole froze. For a moment, everything seemed to slow down as he stared at the woman. Her eyes filled with emotion, both fierce and full of sorrow. The child in Cole's arms looked up, and its face broke into a wide, relieved smile. "Mom?" The child whispered softly, though Cole didn't know if it understood the word itself or if it simply knew the bond between them. The alien mother's expression shifted. She took a hesitant step forward, her eyes locked on her child. There was a moment of silence, but it was charged with an overwhelming sense of longing. Then, as though drawn by an invisible force, the mother rushed forward and embraced her child, her arms wrapping around the small figure tightly. The child laughed and giggled softly, clinging to her. Cole watched, unsure of what to do, but he couldn't help but feel the powerful emotions in the air. This wasn't just a reunion. It was something much more profound. The alien woman's sorrow seemed to melt away as she held her child again. He stood still, giving them space, but his mind was racing. Who were these beings? Where had they come from? Why had the child been lost in the first place? These questions ran through his mind, but for now, they seemed unimportant. The alien mother pulled back slightly, looking at Cole with those golden eyes. She said something in her language, but it was clear from the way she looked at him, her tone softening, that she wasn't angry. Her words were not harsh, but filled with gratitude. Cole slowly nodded, still unsure what to say or do. I'm glad I could help." The alien mother tilted her head as if considering his words. Then, without a hint of fear, she reached out and placed a hand on Cole's chest, her fingers cold and smooth against his skin. A strange warmth spread through him once more, and for a second, he felt the deep emotion in her touch. She wasn't just expressing gratitude, she was sharing something with him. "Thank you," she whispered, though it was not a language Cole could fully understand. Yet somehow he knew the meaning. The child, still nestled in its mother's arms, looked up at Cole with a smile. "Safe," it said, its voice soft but clear. Cole's heart softened at the simple word. The alien child was safe again, and despite the strangeness of the situation, Cole felt a sense of peace. He had done the right thing. He had helped bring the two back together, and now they were safe. The alien mother nodded once as though confirming something in her own mind. She turned toward the cabin and the child followed her, its small hand gripping hers tightly. Cole hesitated for a moment before he followed them inside. The inside of the cabin was warm and welcoming, filled with simple comforts. The alien woman and her child moved with an elegance that made the room feel alive. Cole sat by the fire watching them. The mother and child sat down across from him, the child curling up on the floor, its eyes flicking back and forth between Cole and its mother. For a while there was silence in the cabin. No one spoke. The tension that had once been so heavy in the air had lifted. The alien woman who had been so full of fear and worry now looked at peace. And the child, safe in her arms, was finally free of the uncertainty that had clouded its short life. Finally, the alien mother spoke, her voice soft yet filled with meaning. "You are different," she said. "Human." Cole glanced at her, unsure of what she meant. "I'm just a man," he said simply. "I don't know what you mean." She smiled, a quiet, knowing smile. "Not just a man," she replied. "You are more. You have saved us." Cole blinked, still not fully understanding. But somehow in that moment, he knew that whatever had just happened, whatever had brought him and the alien mother and child together, was something beyond chance. Something deeper. The mother leaned back against the wall, her eyes still filled with gratitude, but now with a sense of trust. And as Cole sat there with them, he knew that their paths had crossed for a reason. The quiet calm in Cole's cabin was shattered by the sudden sound of footsteps outside. He looked up, startled. The alien woman, still holding her child, turned her head toward the door, her eyes narrowing slightly. She stood quickly, her posture shifting from peaceful to alert. Cole followed her gaze. The sound of footsteps grew, louder, and then a knock echoed through the door. 3 sharp raps. Cole's heart skipped. He wasn't expecting anyone. "Who is it?" Cole asked, standing and moving toward the door. The alien woman stepped closer to him, her eyes scanning the room. She seemed tense, as though sensing something he couldn't. Cole opened the door slowly, peering out. Standing there were 2 men, human soldiers, dressed in simple but practical armor, their faces serious. "We got a report of an unknown ship crash," one of the soldiers said. "We've been sent to investigate." Cole felt his heart race. The last thing he needed was the military poking around. He had no idea how the soldiers would react to the alien woman and her child. He stepped out of the doorway, blocking their view into the cabin. "They're not dangerous," Cole said quickly. "I can explain everything, just give me a minute." The soldiers exchanged looks but didn't move. One of them, a taller man with a sharp gaze, spoke again. "We need to see the wreckage and confirm the details. You're not authorized to keep this information to yourself, Mr. Jensen." Cole's eyes widened. He knew that they were just following orders, but this was a delicate situation. The last thing he wanted was for these soldiers to see the alien, mother and child. "Look, there's no wreckage here," Cole said, trying to keep his voice calm. He stopped himself, not wanting to make up a lie that could come back to haunt him. "I found an injured animal, that's all." The soldiers frowned, clearly not buying it. "An animal?" Cole's hand instinctively moved to the back of his neck, trying to think of a way out of this. The alien woman, standing a few feet behind him, was watching the exchange closely, her golden eyes sharp with curiosity. "An alien animal," Cole added quickly, not thinking through his words. He glanced back at the woman, praying she wouldn't do anything drastic. The soldiers didn't seem convinced but didn't push further, at least not yet. "We'll need to inspect the area," the taller soldier said. "If you're hiding something, Mr. Jensen, it's better if you cooperate now." Cole's heart sank. He stepped outside, moving in front of the soldiers, blocking the door to the cabin. The alien woman seemed to sense his unease, her body language tense. The child, still in her arms, looked up at Cole with wide eyes, sensing the change in the air. "Everything is fine," Cole said, forcing a smile. "You don't need to come in here. Let me go with you. We can clear this up." The soldiers nodded but didn't seem convinced. The taller soldier crossed his arms, his eyes scanning the area behind Cole, clearly not trusting the situation. "I'm going to need to speak with your neighbors, too. They might have seen something." Cole was about to protest, but before he could say anything, the alien mother stepped forward. She walked past Cole, her presence commanding yet calm. Her golden eyes locked onto the soldiers as she moved closer. The soldiers immediately froze, their eyes widening as they took in her appearance. The alien woman was tall and graceful, her pale blue skin shimmering faintly in the light. Her hair, a silvery white, cascaded down her back, and her body radiated an otherworldly presence that left the soldiers momentarily speechless. One of the soldiers opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. The tension in the air was thick as both soldiers stared at the alien woman, unsure of what to do. Cole stepped in, his voice low. "She's not dangerous. She's the one I found in the forest. Her ship crashed and she's just trying to get home." The soldiers remained still, processing what Cole had just said. The taller soldier blinked and shook his head, his mouth opening and closing as though searching for the right words. You're saying she's an alien?" The soldier asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Cole nodded. "Yes." The alien woman stood tall, watching them closely. She didn't make any sudden movements, but her presence was enough to make the soldiers take a cautious step back. She held her child tightly in her arms, as though ready to protect it from any threat. The smaller soldier looked to his partner, then back to Cole. "This is unexpected," he muttered, shaking his head in disbelief. The taller soldier cleared his throat, looking back at the alien woman. We're going to need to report this. We can't just let it go." Cole's heart raced. He could feel the situation slipping out of his control. He didn't know what would happen next, but he knew one thing for sure. He couldn't let the soldiers take the alien woman and her child away. They had already been through enough. "Listen," Cole said, stepping forward and holding his hand. "But we don't need to make this harder. If you really want to know what happened, I can show you, but please just let her and her child stay here for now." The soldiers exchanged looks again, clearly unsure of what to do next. Then, just as Cole thought the situation was about to explode, the alien woman spoke. Her voice was soft, but firm. "We will leave when the time comes," she said, her golden eyes locking onto the soldiers. "But for now we are safe, and we ask only for peace." Her words hung in the air like a quiet promise. The air between Cole, the alien woman, and the soldiers was thick with tension. The silence was broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves in the trees and the soft hum of the wind. The soldiers stood still, their eyes flicking between the alien woman and Cole, trying to process everything they had just seen and heard. After a long moment, the taller soldier spoke again. We need to report this, Cole. This is beyond anything we've ever encountered. We're supposed to report all alien encounters." Cole took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing thoughts. He knew the soldiers were just following protocol, but the thought of them taking the alien woman and her child away filled him with unease. "I understand," Cole said quietly. "But I'm asking you to trust me. These two, she and her child, are not here to harm anyone. They've already been through enough." The soldiers exchanged another look, uncertainty written across their faces. The smaller soldier, who had been quiet so far, finally spoke up. "I've never seen anything like this. Are you sure? I mean, what if they're dangerous?" he asked, his voice laced with doubt. Cole turned toward the alien woman. She stood with quiet dignity, holding her child close, her eyes calm but filled with the wisdom of someone who had lived through much more than most could imagine. There was something in her gaze that made Cole believe in her, something that told him she wasn't a threat. She was just a mother, trying to protect her child. The alien woman stepped forward, her presence commanding the attention of everyone around her. She tilted her head slightly, as though considering her words carefully. Then in a voice that was both calm and resolute, she spoke again. "We are not your enemies," she said softly, her golden eyes fixed on the soldiers. "We come from a place far from here, and our journey was never meant to harm your people. My child and I only seek safety." The soldiers stood frozen, caught in the quiet power of her words. The taller soldier seemed to be struggling with his own emotions, torn between his duty and the undeniable sincerity of the alien woman's statement. "Just tell us what happened," the taller soldier finally said, his voice steadying. "We need to understand. If you can help us understand, maybe we can make this right." The alien woman nodded once, and for the first time, she seemed to let go of some of her tension. She turned her gaze toward Cole, her eyes filled with gratitude. She spoke softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I will tell you everything, but not out of fear. I will tell you because I trust you." Cole nodded, relieved that the alien woman was willing to open up. He stepped aside, allowing her to speak freely. The soldiers seemed to understand that this was her moment, and they waited quietly for her to begin. "I am from a world far beyond your own," she started, her voice steady. "We traveled many light years in search of a new home, one that was safe from the war that has consumed our people. But along the way we were forced off course. Our ship was damaged in an attack by another species, an enemy we had hoped to escape." She paused for a moment, her eyes drifting to the child in her arms, who was now awake and watching her intently. "I have lost much in this journey, and my only concern is keeping my child safe. We crash-landed on this planet by accident, but when I searched for my child, I found myself alone. The storm that followed was so fierce, it separated us. I feared I would never find her again." The soldiers listened in stunned silence, absorbing her words. The smaller soldier looked at his partner, and for the first time, there seemed to be a flicker of sympathy in his eyes. "What happened after you landed?" the taller soldier asked, his tone softening. "We wandered for days," the alien woman continued. "But the bond between a mother and child is strong, and I felt my daughter's presence even though I could not see her. It is a bond that goes beyond distance. I could feel her warmth, her life force, and so I followed it. Until I found her, here, with this human." She motioned toward Cole. The alien mother's voice was filled with emotion as she spoke. She had already lost so much. But in Cole, she had found something unexpected. A person who hadn't seen her as a threat, who had treated her and her child with kindness and respect. "I owe this human my life and the life of my child," she said, her eyes now fixed on Cole with deep gratitude. "Without him, we would have been lost. He did not fear us even when he had every reason to." The taller soldier nodded slowly, his gaze softening as he considered her words. He looked back at Cole, his eyes reflecting the same confusion that had been in his voice earlier. "I'm sorry," the soldier said quietly. "We didn't know. We were just following orders. We never meant to threaten you or your child." Cole smiled, relieved that the situation was beginning to shift in their favor. "I understand. I know you were just doing your job, but I hope you can see now that this isn't about fear or control. It's about trust." The smaller soldier nodded as well. "You're right. We should have listened first, I'm sorry." The alien woman offered a small, appreciative nod. "Thank you. I understand your duty, but we do not seek to harm. We only seek to heal." For a moment there was complete silence. The forest around them seemed to quiet even more, as if the very air was holding its breath. The soldiers exchanged a final look before the taller soldier spoke. "All right," he said, his voice calm and respectful now. "We'll report this to the higher authorities, but we won't interfere. You're free to stay here for now, as long as you remain peaceful." Cole let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. The alien mother and her child were safe, for now. "Thank you," Cole said, looking at the soldiers with genuine appreciation. "That's all we need, the fee." Soldiers nodded and slowly turned, retreating back into the forest. As they disappeared from view, Cole turned back to the alien mother and her child. They were safe, for the moment. But he knew their journey wasn't over. The story of their meeting was just beginning. The day after the soldiers left, the cabin settled into a quiet peace. The alien mother and her child stayed close, their presence no longer strange but strangely comforting. Cole had prepared a simple breakfast for them, his hands moving carefully as he set out food he hoped they could eat. The mother had accepted the food graciously, but the child, still hesitant, only nibbled at the fruit. As the morning sunlight filtered through the trees, Cole found himself staring out the window, deep in thought. The events of the last few days had changed everything. He had never imagined that his quiet life would be interrupted by the arrival of an alien ship, nor had he expected to become part of a story that stretched far beyond Earth. He glanced over his shoulder at the alien woman and her child, who were sitting by the fire. The mother was quietly talking to her child in their strange language, her voice soft but filled with emotion. The child, though young, seemed to understand every word, and their bond was as clear as it was unspoken. Cole couldn't help but feel a sense of wonder as he watched them. Despite the differences in their appearance, there was something deeply human about them. They were just like any mother and child, loving, protective, and full of hope for a better future. The alien mother looked up from her child and caught Cole's gaze. She smiled, a soft, knowing smile that spoke volumes. Without a word, she stood and approached him. "You have shown us kindness," she said, her voice still carrying the weight of her foreign accent. "You have offered us safety when no one else would." Cole stood up, unsure of how to respond. "I just did what anyone would do," he said, his voice low. "You didn't have to trust me, but I'm glad you did." The alien woman's smile deepened. "Trust is not easy to give, but you earned it." For a long moment they stood in silence, a quiet understanding passing between them. But then the child suddenly stood up, its small face filled with excitement. It pointed toward the door, its golden eyes wide with wonder. "Outside," the child exclaimed, its voice eager. Cole raised an eyebrow but didn't ask questions. "What's out there?" he asked with a chuckle. The alien mother's gaze shifted to her child and she sighed softly, as if understanding something Cole couldn't. "She feels it," she said. "There is something outside, something calling her." Without waiting for Cole's response, the child turned and ran toward the door, pushing it open with excitement. The mother followed quickly, and Cole found himself trailing behind them, unsure of what to expect. The cool morning air greeted them as they stepped outside. The forest was peaceful, with only the faint sound of birds and rustling leaves to break the stillness. The child ran ahead, her feet light against the soft ground, her eyes scanning the trees with a purpose. "Wait!" Cole called, jogging too. "Catch up." "Where are you going?" The alien woman followed, her eyes locked on her child. "She's been feeling it since we arrived," she explained. "Something familiar." Cole felt a strange sensation in his chest. The child seemed to be drawn to something, but what? He couldn't shake the feeling that whatever it wasn't ordinary. They walked for a while, the child leading them through the trees. The path seemed to open up before them as if the forest itself was guiding them. Cole couldn't explain it, but the further they went, the more he felt that they were getting closer to something important. Then, suddenly, the child stopped. Cole and the alien woman came up behind her, and as they looked around, they saw it. In the distance, partially hidden by the trees, was a faint glowing light. It wasn't bright, but it pulsed in a rhythmic pattern, like a heartbeat. Cole's heart skipped a beat as he stared at the light. It didn't make any sense. There was nothing like this on Earth. The light seemed to come from somewhere deep within the forest, as though it was waiting for them to find it. The alien woman stepped forward, her face unreadable. "It is here," she whispered. "This is why we came." Cole turned to her, his mind racing. "What do you mean? What is it?" The alien woman's gaze remained fixed on the light. "A signal. A beacon. It calls to us." Before Cole could ask more questions, the child took another step toward the glowing light. The forest around them seemed to hush, and the air grew still. The child reached out, as though the light was meant for her, and for a brief moment, everything seemed to stop. Then, with a soft hum, the light flared brightly, illuminating the entire clearing. Cole shielded his eyes from the sudden brightness, but when the light faded, he saw something that left him speechless. Before them stood a figure, taller than the alien woman and even more radiant. The figure was humanoid, with a flowing robe that shimmered with an otherworldly light. Its face was obscured by a glowing veil, but its presence was undeniable. The alien woman's eyes widened in recognition, and she stepped forward, her voice filled with awe. "It is you." The figure raised a hand, and for the first time Cole felt something he couldn't explain, an overwhelming sense of peace. The air seemed to hum with energy, and Cole felt as though he was in the presence of something far beyond his understanding. The figure spoke in a voice that echoed in Cole's mind, not with words, but with a feeling, a sense of purpose and knowledge. You have done well, human. You have brought them to me. Their journey is not yet over, but their path is clearer now. Cole didn't know what to say. He had no words for the awe he felt, but he knew one thing for certain. Their lives, all of them, were about to change.